Welcome to Breaking Down Bits, a conversation about great comedy bits with the comedians who wrote and performed them.
Welcome to Breaking Down Bits. I'm Brian Gendron.
Hey, what's up? I'm Drew Jordan, and we're back. Finally getting into a nice rhythm with the podcast here. Since I've quit my job, I have more time to podcast. So things are doing a little faster, and had an amazing podcast and a kind of a special one last time. If you missed last time, it was with Kyle Congdon Amory, who is the CEO and founder of Don't Tell Comedy. You've probably heard about these shows. They're in 40 plus cities all over America, do these pop-up comedy shops. And so, do you want to start with your callback, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle's just been hustling, right? You know, and one of the things that really stood out for me is there was the one show that he talked about that he did where they had a stage in this room. So we talked about finding the right venue. There was a stage, but they didn't actually use the stage. They went below the stage because he felt like he wanted to have a more intimate environment where stand-up, you know, where the comedian was here and the audience is just about a foot. I think he said a foot or less above the audience is the right height for a stage. So I thought that was really interesting, just as you're looking for a room. And all the things that we covered as far as limiting distractions and all that stuff in that episode. I mean, that was just a solid episode. If you're a producer, check some of that out. That was the one that stood out for me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna do a callback to actually something that you said, Brian, because I thought it was noteworthy. If you're gonna be a show producer, think through the experience through the eyes of the attendant. So think about what it takes to park, to walk into the venue, to walk into the room, coming like every step of the way. I think you can't go wrong. And that's a great way to think about how to produce a show that's going to stand out and be different than a lot of the stand-up shows that you might see out there. Really see it through the eyes of the person who's attending and walk through the entire process of the night and think that through. Just a great ground rule, I think, if you're going to be a show producer.
Wow, actually said something memorable, Drew. That might be a first, dude. I like it.
Brian said something helpful. Look at that.
All right. So listen, you can get that episode, all the episodes, anywhere you get your podcast and on YouTube. You can go to our website, breakingdownbits.com. To find our entire catalog of episodes. Also, you can follow us, tag us on social media at Breaking Down Bits, or email us breakingdownbits@gmail.com. That episode that we did with Kyle was actually a request by some of our listeners. They wanted to hear about producing shows, and we delivered. So sometimes, every now and again, we may actually listen if you have requests.
Yeah, you can't always get what you want, but last time you did.
We do our best. All right. Want to bring in our guest?
Let's do it.
Kimberly Congdon is a comedian, writer, and actress residing in Los Angeles. She's appeared on Comedy Central's Roast Battle, Impractical Jokers, and stand-up showcase appearances across the U.S. She's been a guest on podcasts like The Joe Rogan Experience, Getting Dug with High, and Kill Tony. She also has her own podcast, Broad Topix, and This Bitch.
Hey, there she is.
Hey, I like that intro. Can I keep that?
You can have it.
It's good. That's more work than I've ever put into anything.
Well, it's actually all the work that you have actually already done.
Thank you.
It was really fun.
Most of the work.
You did actually all the work. I just talked about it. No, you've done a lot of interesting stuff. I know we'll dive into. You have your hands in a lot of comedy and writing and performing cookie jars that I'm sure we'd love to kind of hear some of the different experiences and stuff that you've got through the years. But in the beginning, let's just start with your comedy journey. How did you start, and kind of walk us through the process of where you've gotten to how you are today?
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in Florida. I went to college at the University of Florida. I was going to school for TV production, minoring in theater, and I was working at this place called the Swamp Restaurant. I was a server there. And I wanted to make some extra money. So I asked the owner of the restaurant, because I was doing TV production, if I could film some stuff for the restaurant and put together like little clips to do like promo reels.
Mm-hmm.
And he really liked those. And then he said that I should get an internship at a production company in the summer in like LA. And it was something I'd never even like considered. And he said he knew a guy and he got me an internship for the summer. I was super excited. And it was at this place called Fremantle Media. They do like American Idol, Let's Make a Deal, X Factor, all those shows.
Wow.
And he got me an internship for the summer. So I came here. And the only person I knew in LA was my cousin, who was also, I think at the time, also interning, but for one of the big agencies, comedy agencies. So when I was staying with her at night during my internship, I'd go to the Comedy Store and she would go like scout talent for her boss and like, you know, watch comedians. And she was like friends with a bunch of comics. And I got to meet a bunch of people there. And I was watching comedy a lot. And there was one night where her and I popped into the store. And that same day I had made a joke to her. I think that day in the news, a manhole had eaten this dude in his living room. It was like 9 years ago. I don't know if you guys heard that story, but I made a joke to my cousin. I just was like sitting with her on the couch and I had made a comment like, I don't remember even what I said, but I started going into what that dude must have done in his life for like him to just be sitting on his couch and the earth ate him. Like he had to be a killer. Like I was like, that guy, you know, I said something like that. And when we popped into the Comedy Store that night, Dane Cook talked about the thing in the news that day. It was like riffing off of it and said a joke so close to what I had said. It was almost like verbatim. My cousin turned to me and she was like, you kind of said that. And she was like, you literally said that joke. You made that joke earlier today. And it wasn't something that was like stolen. It was something that just happened. And it was like the first time I had realized that I was like, oh, this is so much better. And this dude like sells out Madison Square Garden and makes money. Because before that, I never even thought stand-up was like a thing. So I signed up. So my cousin, they were doing Monday night potlucks at the Comedy Store at that point. And my cousin was like, you should sign up. You put your name in a thing. They pull out like 30 names. If your name gets picked, you get to go on stage. And they put my name in. I got a spot on there and I did a set. And then that same night after I got off stage, I had met Tony and Redbin and them a few weeks prior just through stand-up. And I was like so excited. And I was like, oh, I just went on stage for the first time in the OR. It was so much fun. I like loved it. Willie Hunter was hosting. It was great. And then Tony was like, well, do you want to do my show? I have a show about new comedians that just started. It's called Kill Tony. We just started it 2 weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, for sure. So then he got me up on Kill Tony. So I did 2 sets at the Comedy Store, my first night ever doing stand-up. I went up to the OR and I went up in the belly room. And then after that, Tony was like, you should come every week. I'm trying to get a couple regulars to do this thing. And I dropped out of college the next day. Like I called my school the next morning. I was like, I didn't go back. I subleased my apartment. I subletted my apartment and yeah. And then I
just never returned to Florida.
No.
Did you dunk that potluck? Did you get it on the first time? Because I know that famous, like everybody has to wait outside and, you know, they sign up and then, you know, every week they show up. You dunked it on the first one?
Yeah. And then I didn't get it for like 3 months after that. So I was really happy that I did that time because, you know, it probably was a little more convincing.
Destiny. And then you hit like one of the first Kill Tony episodes ever, is what you're saying. And then did a couple after that.
And it was the same day, Tony told me it was the same day that he decided that he wanted to do. He was having people come at the end that he knew, but it was the day that he decided he wanted like 2 regular women. He was like, because I want it to be women that are doing like building a setup. And it was the same day that I had gone there to do. Yeah, it was just great timing.
So you were writing at that time, then you were writing a minute at a time. Was that the format back then? Yeah.
That's sort of how I still write jokes now, to be honest, because it's the only way I really know how to write jokes.
Oh, okay. We'll get into your writing strategy in a little bit. So what happened? So Kill Tony, obviously, is such a massive thing now, and to be on the front end of that like that, and have a friend and a partner like Tony to kind of give you opportunities and put you in front there so you could shine. What you've done so much more on top of that. Like, how do you get into Impractical Jokers? You're writing for television. You've acted in film and TV and movies. Like, how did Kill Tony lead to all that stuff?
Okay, so Kill Tony was a huge stepping stone. You know, obviously I did the work to be able to do it, but it introduced me to a lot of people. Like Tony, the premise for his show was, you know, Tony and Red Band, and then it was usually like two other comedians that were like pretty well known. And it was a bunch of new comedians. So because I was a regular on the show, I got to do a set in front of like a bigger, well-known comedian every single week. And, you know, after the shows, we'd hang out, we'd have a drink, I'd get to meet them. And so through Kill Tony, I met, I think Bobby Lee was the first person to ever take me on the road from one of my sets, from doing well on one of my sets on Kill Tony. I met Ralphie May through there, Doug Benson. I mean, there's gonna be so many people I'm forgetting. Sarah Silverman, so many people. Almost every comedian I know I met through there, and sort of keeping the connections. Ralphie May brought me on the road a lot, that was the beginning of it. And then I would hang out at the Comedy Store a lot, and around that same time they introduced Roast Battle, and I remember there was. They had done 2 roast battles. They had tried to, I guess there was 2 comedians that wanted to fist fight in the parking lot. And Brian Moses and Rel were like, why don't you guys bring it up to the belly room? We have a show right now, and just talk shit in front of each other on the show. And they did it. And then the next time they had 2 other comedians, and then they were like, we want 2 women. So they had me and another comedian, Sarah Mostajabi, who just passed away, RIP. We were the first woman to ever roast battle against each other. And once I did that, I was like hooked, like into, like I love stand up, but once I did roasting, I was like really into it. Like I think it's just so fucking fun. So I started roast battling a lot. And at that point, this was before they had 10 million different roast shows in every state. This is when there was like, nobody was roasting. They had the Comedy Central roast once a year, and that was all you saw for roasting. They made it like a huge deal in LA. They had a list of the top 150 roasters, and then it was LA versus New York, and it became this huge thing. And that's where I met Sal Volcano. I did a roast battle in New York, and he happened to be just hanging out probably with Chris DiStefano. And he came by the stand and judged my roast battle. And because I was roast battling, I met Sal through that. And then after roast battle, I just went up to him and I was like, I love your show. I want to be a writer. I don't want to annoy you now, but if you ever are having packets submitted, please just remember me. Like, that's it. And he said yes. And then I was like, ooh, I'm embarrassing. And I went home and had anxiety about that for like probably a month, 2 months. And literally 1 year later, I had not spoken to him since that night. I met him one time. He hit up the guy that I was dating at the time, Lewis. And he was like, hey, your girlfriend Kim asked me a year ago about a packet, and we're doing that now. So I wanted to give her a packet, and I submitted a packet, and I got the job.
Nice. So this is definitely a lesson for comics. Networking, so important. Asking it, and don't be annoying, but asking for opportunities is not a bad thing. You're not going to get something if you don't let someone know that you're interested. Yeah,
totally. And I honestly I think that, you know, things have gone pretty well for me, but I like shudder at all the opportunities I missed, because I spent years being like, don't be annoying, don't bother anyone, stay out of the way. But I will, you know, anytime I did talk to Ralphie, or I go up to Bobby or talk to them after the show, I was ridden with anxiety, probably very awkward. I'm a little bit awkward. It's not easy. For me, the socializing is the hardest part in stand-up. It is the most difficult part, the networking. So I know that there are a lot of people out there that struggle with that, but you really just have to go, like, say hi, be cool, have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean the whole stand up, you're putting yourself out of your comfort zone. Just kind of use those same tools and put yourself out there and ask. We're a booker for the show here in Houston, the Riot, and just there's so many people that ask. People are like, "Why don't you put me on your show?" I'm like, "You're not even in the group of people who ask. That's why, right?" So you have to make the ask. And then the other thing you were doing, Kim, was you were trying these different things. You were putting yourself out there on the Kill Tony show. You were doing roast battle. And so it's just a call out to other comics, like get involved in those other shows. Don't worry about just getting on showcases and traditional headliner shows. Try the roast battles, try the other things. You never know if you might fall in love with it like you did with roast, and you never know who might be judging or might see it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I've
Kind of
met
similar to, oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, kind of similar to Sarah Tiana. She kind of like found that road and it became a real opportunity and income source. And now she just kind of like you just really found a home there and found success. And she did the podcast and talked all about roast jokes. And me and Brian did a roast. We won't talk about who won and who lost.
I won.
But I
couldn't tell.
I'm not bitter about it. But it's roasts are not really my thing, but I've really enjoyed I love the writing process of it because it takes you out of your regular writing routine and puts you in a different headspace. And so while I am not the best at doing them, I really enjoy the homework.
Yeah, they're super fun. I like it. It's like you said, I think it's more fun for me to sit down and write a roast joke than it is to write like a joke. It's very weird. If it's like not going to be in my set for a long time or be super helpful to my career, I will write the best joke. Like I can write for other people. I can write for other people. So my friend can call me and she goes, oh, I'm having trouble with this joke. And I will write a 10-minute bit on the spot for her. And then I'll look at my own set and I'm like, I see nothing. So it's like a very weird process sometimes, but it is true that like getting into other things, even now I'm in the last few months I've gotten into acting. I've done like little things here and there, but I've really like buckled down and started doing like a lot of auditions and trying to get into stuff. And and now I judge a roast battle sometimes. And I was judging the other day and Jason Reitman came in and then he judged. And now I'm here and I'm a comedian who somehow got into roasting, but now I want to be an actor and I'm judging with a director. So it's like it's all connected. A lot of people think that it's so funny because a lot of people will see me and they'll just think like, oh, like you're hot. Like you get things because guys think you're hot. And I'm like, nobody talked to me for 9 years. I mean, people talk to me, but like, I'd do a set here for $500 and then I wouldn't do it work again for 6-7 months. It wasn't like that easy. I really, even when I'm telling you, oh, this guy brought me on the road and this guy brought me on the road, it'd be a couple of times, but that, a couple of times on the road pays half a month of rent in LA. And so, it's like, there was a lot more grinding in between all of the really great things that happened. I just only post the great things. I don't post myself crying to my mom on Instagram for years or, sleeping in a living room floor on a couch for, a year and a half. I don't post those things on my social media. So people don't see the grind in between, but it is so much work. Even now, like if I don't constantly work, I won't pay my rent. If I'm not constantly grinding, it's even when you level up and you're getting a different kind of work, everything's still, you got to keep going. You got to keep it moving or it stops. Then you don't.
Optimistic take from Kim Congdon. Thanks for sharing.
I don't know. It never.
You can cry here. This is a safe place.
It's like therapy.
But it's you're up a good point too, that because I, granted we're in Houston, Texas, and there's no industry here, but I got discovered in our room on stage because somebody liked my look or liked my character or whatever it is, and they thought I'd be good fit for their movie role. And the movie's trash. Don't go see it. I've only been in one, but nonetheless, you're in LA, or if you're in New York, or if you're in markets where there is industry, Atlanta, whatever it is, you never know who's going to be out there. You never know who may pick you up for other types of work and projects or appreciate your writing. Who knows, but keep putting yourself out there.
Sometimes I'm in small towns and people are like, oh yeah, my cousin he's a photographer out in LA. And I'll be like, oh, cool. And then I'll look and it's like a huge photographer. And I'm like, oh,
because no one's from LA. I mean, people go there. It's a pilgrimage.
Yeah. People go to LA, but they're from other places. So everyone has connections everywhere.
That's actually another good call out too. Interact with after the show as much as possible. Make sure you go out and interact with the people at the show. You never know what they might have. They could advance your career and you might not even know it.
Yeah. For me, there is a very fine line though. It's like you have to be like you have to be genuinely sort of interested in the conversation. And sometimes people talk to me and like I can tell they just want to know what I'm doing. And it sort of, I don't know if it's for everyone, but for me, I'm like, this is like turning into like weasel behavior. I'm like, seem interested, like genuinely hang out, make a friendship, because if you're a cool person and you're going to be working in the industry, people don't really give a fuck what you're doing. Like they give a fuck like if you're funny and if you're cool to work with. And that's it. Like nobody gives a fuck about your like credits or what, people do, I guess, for selling tickets, but when it comes to working with people, they just want to work with people that they like to be around. Because when you're on set or when you're filming or when you're doing a weekly show with someone, you want to be happy when you see them.
Yeah, there's a lot of downtime in those kind of industries, and you don't want to be with someone who drives you absolutely insane.
What I'm saying is be a fun hang.
Yeah.
Be a fun hang.
While you're writing jokes, also work on a personality. Get
Yeah.
in there and do the work.
Or be like, just don't be annoying at minimum. I think the minimum is don't be annoying to be a good hang.
Yeah. It is tough though. I have a lot of I'm a terrible networker, which is something I'm trying to get better at. Forever, I feel like I just came from such a different background from most comics and have such a different life than most comics that I for the first couple years of comedy, I didn't have anything in common to say to these people, and I was just like, hey, I'm just going to stand here and try to inject something every now and again. And then like now as time goes on, I'm a little better at it, but it's definitely the most anxiety filled part of comedy for me is like trying to like, because I just like if I vibe with someone and like I'm down, like we'll have the best fun time ever. But if I feel like I'm not really connecting, I just like get it all in my head and feel awkward about me even being there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like that, and then they talk to each other, and then it's two people overthinking it. Yeah, it's so funny. People never talk about the social anxiety aspect of being a comedian, which is like huge. I see it all the time, and yeah, to be honest, it's very difficult to hold a conversation sometimes.
Yeah.
But, the one thing not to forget, we all have a common connection. We all do stand-up. And if nothing else, default to just talking about stand-up. It's simple.
I'm like the kind of person, I'm super weird in a conversation. Someone will be having like a nice conversation and they'll be talking about like plants or like how to keep their plants alive or something like that. And I'll just be like, isn't it weird that we're all going to be dead one day?
Life of the party.
Interesting. I see planes all the time. They're alive. Cool. So are we, and we're going to die. Isn't that crazier? Isn't it crazier that we're dying? And you care about your plants dying?
I think that's one of the tricks to stand up. I mean, we all recognize our own mortality, and that's way more interesting than whatever you're blabbing about.
Totally.
Small talk killer over here. Just let's go deep. Death, mortality.
Don't bring the small talk over here.
That's great. So Sal and that connection and everything kind of led to some of the TV credits and the writing. And if you had to pick, like now, I know you said you're pretty excited and kind of hot on the acting stuff right now because that's a little newer and you're really getting in there. What's your favorite thing right now to do though? Is it acting, writing, or performing comedy?
It would, I mean, if you're talking passion and not financially, I would go definitely stand-up's number one. It's my favorite thing. It's just, you go on stage, people laugh at the words that come out of your mouth, and then you go and hang out with your friends. It's the coolest thing I've ever done. And I get shocked every day that I'm doing it. I feel like a literal clown when I think about it. I'm like, this is so dumb. I can't believe it. I feel like a dumb genius. And I'm like, I can't believe this plan worked. You know what I mean? I'm like, I feel like nobody's caught on yet.
Yeah.
Like they still think this is real. But stand-up's my favorite. Obviously, I like the money from writing the best.
Sure.
And but I'm loving acting lately. Like I've canceled like a couple things just for auditions, which is very telling for me when it comes to stand up. But I don't know. We'll see. I like it right now. I also like discovering something I didn't think I was good at and being good at it because I'm so bad at other things. I mean, people are like, "You're so good at stand up." I'm like, "You should see me like talk about anything else. You would be like, this girl knows nothing. She's an idiot." I'm like, thank God there is stand up and being funny because I can be considered a genius somewhere. Like, don't ask me about history. Don't ask me any math questions. Don't ask me about science. I have no idea how anything exists, why anything's happening. But this is like my one point. So I just like being good at something, and then I chase after that. It's
Yeah,
like,
I think you got to find your thing and fully commit. That's the thing. I think that's one of the things about artistic endeavors is you have to fully commit. You can't half-ass, a career in this kind of thing because someone else is always working harder than you and is going to get those opportunities. If you're lazy about it and not getting out to the mics or not working, like someone else, there's hungry people out there who are going to pass you by.
Totally.
I guess we can make a quick transition and talk a little bit about writing. We kind of started off with like the kind of broad question. You can answer it any way you'd like, open-ended. But how does Kim Congdon write comedy?
Oh God. I mean, as soon as I heard this was going to be a question, I was like, they're going to hate my answer. I just don't really have an answer. I just, well, I guess a lot of it comes from my podcast. Now that I'm thinking about it.
I was going to ask that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I can't think of a bit, I'll go through my podcast and I'll just play it on the fastest speed and I watch when my co-host laughs. And then I click and go, what did I say? Because if I can make another comedian laugh out loud, I can make a regular person laugh. And that's been a huge help.
That's really smart. I mean, because so many comics have podcasts and most of them nobody's fucking listening to, but at least you can go back and be like, where did I make my co-host laugh? And that could be a bit. I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
I think some people have said like they anytime they're hanging out with their friends and they make their friends laugh, they'll make a little note because maybe that's something to explore later, which must be really annoying for their friends they're trying to hang out with. But I think that's a good strategy. I think everyone does it differently.
Yeah, that one works too. Stuff that I tweet, if a tweet does good, I'll be like, maybe that'll work on stage. Sometimes I'll just try to remember the general things that I do a lot of like asking people things. So like something will annoy me and I'll ask like 5 or 6 friends, does this happen to you? And if it happens to all of them, I'm like, it must happen to everyone. Because I think it goes back to the social anxiety thing where people are a lot more alike than we think we are. And you see it when you see the meme of the little boy standing, and it's like the little tiny alien standing at the doorway, and it's like you at your mom's room at 3 a.m. and it goes, I threw up. It's like we all sit at our mom's doorway and fucking or whatever. And it's like, it's just finding those things. I think that comedians are the ones that will call out that we're all doing it.
Yeah.
It's the same way that if someone's talking about a plant, I go, oh, we're all going to die. It's like everyone secretly thinks that, but only as like a comedian would say it out loud. It makes so much sense that I would be like, oh yeah, that was weird. Sorry. I don't know. We have weird personalities. I don't know how to describe it. Comedians are weird. We're weird people.
That's the phone a friend thing's come up a few times. I think that's really smart because a lot of, I don't know if it's Greg Warren and maybe a few other people have talked about like, just write down the things that annoy you throughout the day. Caparulo, I think, certainly said that. And then phone a friend and be like, do these also annoy you? And then you've kind of done the relatability check, or just bring it to a mic that doesn't matter, an open mic, whatever it is. But the things that annoy you, that's often the source of good material.
On the nerdy side, do you write anything down? Do you have a spreadsheet? Are you making lists of things, or is it all just live in your head?
Wait, can you ask that again? Sorry.
Oh, just when it comes to like your material, do you have a notebook where you like physically write it on paper, or do you keep like a spreadsheet? How do you collect your ideas?
I remember I saw a Woody Allen documentary like years ago, and it made me feel so much better because I know he's like a sicko and stuff, but they went through artist wise, they were like, where do you keep your notes? And he opened this drawer and he had just had like loose papers everywhere. And I kind of have like, a huge, like this thing in here right next to me. Let me see if I can show you guys. I have
And a solved Rubik's Cube too. Very good.
oh yeah, I just did that. I
Yeah.
had to see if I remembered, but yeah, I have a huge thing in here. And you can see it has like old notes and bits.
This is turning into an episode of MTV Cribs now.
And pictures and art, and like these are all filled with jokes. I have like tons of these, and so and the crazy thing is they're mostly like, I think they're like the same thing. I don't have like 15 hours of comedy. It's a lot of the same words written in different fonts. It's typo.
Get the same 15 minutes written down in 2,500 places.
Yes. Yeah, it was probably, a couple hours maybe. I don't know, but it's psychotic. And that's just one of them. I have like behind me 20 more notebooks I'm looking at. I just write things down, and they're not funny a lot, and some of them are. It's a lot. It's a game of numbers, truly. Comedy, just like everything else. Just like auditions, I've noticed. Every time I do an audition, and I kind of look at them like getting them out of the way. I'm like, okay, let's do another one, because I want to get as many in as I can, because I'm like, one of them will work, but I need to get in like 100.
I think we forget that, because I've been in comedy now for almost 5 years. And I think sometimes you start to get a little better. You start to finally start finding a little momentum. And then you can start to feel a little invincible, and you write jokes and you're like, I'm taking these straight to the show because I'm a good writer now. And you forget that like 9/10 of the crap that you write is complete and utter garbage. And you no matter what point or stage you're at, you have to like scrap most of it and just keep the good stuff.
I've reached a point where like sometimes I love a bomb, because I'm like, thank God, I need to be brought down. Sometimes I get a little like I get into my set and like I know it crushes, so I keep doing it, and then I'll go like, let me try this one that I just wrote today, and they won't laugh, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, got to keep working. You're not Chappelle. Like it'll bring you down to earth. A bad joke.
Yeah, it'll force you to work.
Yeah,
work on those dig outs. Dig outs are important too.
Totally.
It's true. Yeah, I think sometimes I totally agree. I think sometimes nothing motivates you like a bad set to go, oh man, I really got to dig into this. I haven't been prioritizing some my ideas and writing and all the homework that goes with it, and you get a little bit lazy, and the world puts you on your ass for it.
Yeah, I know. I'm like I constantly feel guilty about being too lazy. So
it's a weird, being a full-time comic or is just got such a strange profession to be. And it's got to like, you hear all the jokes about it, waking up at like noon and working for an hour a day. But there's like, I think for new comics, it's, while some people, when you get to that place, it's a little different, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work. Your brain is constantly running, constantly working, constantly kind of like surveying and taking in data. Yeah.
Also, if you're a comedian, like you're probably not, I think probably most comedians, like 90% of comedians are not like 2-parent households. Everything was gravy growing up. They're also people that are like constantly working on themselves, and like it takes a lot of mental energy to do stand-up comedy. It takes a lot of rejection, a lot of the opposite of what comedians are looking for when they get into comedy. So that is a huge toll on your mental health. If you don't realize that it takes a lot of work for a lot of years first. I remember getting into an argument with someone when I started comedy because I told them I would be famous in 3 years. And I was I will. Like I was like, I'm the funniest. I'm going to be famous in 3 years. And I'm going to be going on 10 or 11 years now, I think. And, I'm just starting to get things in the last few years. And so it's like, when you first get into it, if you really believe in yourself, you're like, this is going to go quick. And that realization that's like, it's true. Everybody that made it overnight, Tiffany Haddish and Kevin Hart and all these people, they were doing the same things we were doing. They were for years at open mics, not getting laughed at. But like I said, you don't see those things.
You have to humbly believe in yourself. You have to maintain that belief in yourself. Otherwise you won't keep going. and but you have to stay humble.
Yep.
And patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, and somehow consistent through it all. Throughout, I think that's one. If there's one skill that I've learned through stand-up comedy, it truly is how to not let a complete and utter rejection destroy my desire to continue doing it, because I can't. I mean, me and Brian worked together at the Riot, and he's seen like some of the hottest bombs I've ever delivered. And thinking back at him, like, how did I keep doing comedy after that? Like, what inside of me made me keep doing it?
Can I share the one time he dressed up like Mitch Hedberg, and nobody knew who he was. It was Halloween, so it was appropriate, but nobody knew Mitch Hedberg, and he just went.
Listen,
they didn't understand.
Killed in LA.
What's that?
That would have killed in LA.
Yeah. We're those comedy fans.
They thought I was Kurt Cobain or something from Nirvana.
You should have dressed as Ron White.
Yeah, right. I should have dressed as someone from TV that they knew. But yeah, it was a terrible bomb. Everyone was just confused the entire set. And then I decided to end with, because it was Halloween, a special show, I ended with some Mitch Hedberg jokes, which no one knew, and they're strange, and even Mitch bombed with them sometimes. And here it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. But you just got to wake up the next morning and keep. I don't know how that did not make me quit.
I've had bombs where I turn on the audience and I start blaming them.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I do that backstage.
I go, you guys actually fucking suck. I don't care. And they just look at me and I go, look at me, stare at me. Now I'm fighting with 40 strangers. Yeah.
Do you have any good strategies for something that me and Brian have talked about a lot? Is, sometimes you don't always have a good crowd. Do you have any on-stage strategies to dig yourself out of a weird crowd setting like that?
This is a fucked up answer. You have to work hard and long enough to have an undeniable set that you can pull out at any time. I have a set. I have at least 5 minutes. I can get me through the end of a set and get off stage. Constantly.
Gotcha. This go back to the gold.
This works anywhere. I don't care if it's been on TV. I don't care if it's been filmed. I need to get the fuck out. And rarely do I don't really bomb, like I don't bomb where it's like dead silent. But there's been a couple sets where I'm like, this is horrible. And yeah, I just use the jokes that I know work and then I leave. Or I take the challenge. Sometimes you just gotta not care about bombing because it happens. Yeah. And so sometimes I gotta embrace it and be like, cool, this is a bomb. This is an opportunity for me to see if I could dig myself out of a hole. And I couldn't tell you how to do that. Or, sometimes I start roasting people and it works. Sometimes I start roasting people and I'm already bombing, so the crowd actually gets more offended. So it's like I don't know. If I had the sauce, I would be too big for all of these to be podcasting on a computer.
You'd never be on this podcast forever.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten I wouldn't have gotten your message.
Your agent would have blocked this off a long time ago.
My agent's not real. It's me. Another email.
What about when it comes to more kind of on the writing stuff before you do like a longer set? How do you organize your set list? Do you play it loose? Do you stick to the set list? What's kind of when it comes to building like maybe a longer set? Do you have any strategies or ways that you kind of organize things?
Right now I'm working on putting together a set for a special. And the way I'm doing it right now is I who knows if this is going to work. But I am organizing it by like, okay, this is like my family stuff. This is like the sexual stuff. This is the stuff that's like general, everyone has in common stuff that is just like almost like one-liner, off the wall, random things. And I am sort of trying to make it so I split the sexual stuff up and there's not a lot of it in a row. Because I feel like as a woman, you have to write a different set too. Yeah. It's like I have to do it to where when I put it out, people aren't like, there's so much sex. I have to like sneak it in between other jokes. And
Nikki Glaser just gets roasted for that just constantly.
It's so obnoxious. But I'm like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. and I do stand-up comedy. So I'm not going to talk about comedy. I'm not going to, I mean, and I talk about being single, and that is having sex and like hooking up with people and dating and like all of that. So it's like, it's very weird. But I don't remember.
Got to write what you know.
It's
Yeah.
and it's the most relatable thing. Even people who are married were at one time single. So, so everybody in the audience can relate to that.
Yeah, Brian still has sex sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I'm married. So that's over, but
yeah. So I don't know. I try out one way. If it doesn't work that way, I try it out a different way. It's a lot of experimenting.
That is an interesting strategy, though, because I think that the most obvious thing would be, or at least the most obvious thing to me, is to group topics together, and then exhaust the topic and move on to the next topic. But that's an interesting strategy, and I wonder, that's to mix up some things.
Group them together, and then I sprinkle this, like I'll have like a big part of, I think that a big part of my act is like dirty jokes. I've also like sort of leaned towards that. I really like dirty comedy. I like dirty comics. I love working with like Big J and the Legion of Skanks guys. And I love like the whole fight for freedom of speech and comedy and fighting cancel culture and that whole thing. I am very into that. Like 10 people just were like, we're not going to her show anymore. She's into the Me Too thing. But so I really like to toe the line on offensive jokes and stuff like that. So hope the Riot likes offensive comedy, because I'm coming through with some bangers.
We're so our philosophy with that, and we have shows that are specific, dirty comedy. We had a show called Sick Fucks a couple weeks ago that got picked up by the local media, the Houston Press.
Nice.
They said their headline was Rudd's, that's our venue, to host another transphobic dumpster fire. That was their headline.
That sounds like a good show. I'm in.
Yeah. It's, hey, fuck them. It's sold out, and we leaned into it. We're like, hey, this is highly recommended by the Houston Press. We tagged them in all social media. I paraphrased the article in a few places, made it look favorable because they use sarcasm. Like, fuck you guys. That's our language. We speak sarcasm. I contacted the editor. She's like, no, we're not going to retract it. I'm like, all right, fine. We're going to run with it. So anyway, all that to say, Kim, we do love dirty comedy. Our philosophy with it, if you're professional, as long as you're like a professional, you carry yourself professionally, you can speak about whatever you want. And that's truly how we believe.
Yeah. I'm in. I'm down for that.
It's also inspired a new show called Rudd's Transphobic Trash Fire every Sunday at, no, we're not. No.
Oh, man. I mean, but are you brave enough to write "No trannies allowed" on your flyer?
No, it's already in a neon sign over the door, so we don't have to worry about that.
For the bit.
Commit to the bit.
Yeah, people really do hate words. It's wild. It's really crazy.
It's a weird time, and I think that my material, I feel like I like edgy stuff, but I don't go very far into that. I like to kind of just like dip my toe into it and have fun with it. But even me, I feel like I felt pressure to be like, oh gosh, is someone going to misinterpret this joke as something I didn't mean it to be? And are they gonna like, I had a joke get banned on TikTok. It's not even a dirty joke. I mean, it's like,
you were talking about having sex with minors, not minors.
But
teens.
That is not
teens.
the way that I wrote the joke. No, the joke basically was just like, my dating strategy is like the winter in Houston, 30s, 20s, and every now and again dip into the teens. And it was just like, I mean, it's a weather joke. It's not even like.
Also very funny. You could be fucking 19-year-olds. It's
true. 18's legal.
It's gross, but it's not illegal.
Well, yeah.
No one said it was smart.
You're almost 40. You're almost 40, Drew. But no, the next line of it is it's the.
I can never be a meteorologist. I'd be like, grab a jacket. It's barely legal out there.
Barely legal. So that puts it into the 18-19 category.
I like it. I think it's a funny joke.
It's a great joke.
And someone did not like it, and it got deleted on TikTok because someone was offended. And I was just like, I feel like my stuff's not that edgy. And if even I'm feeling the pushback I can't imagine what the comics who really do try to toe that line further are feeling right now, because it's got to be crazy.
I've definitely been told that I've lost things because of the stuff I have online and on podcasts, like big things. So it's disappointing, but it's also like if I booked those things, they wouldn't have wanted. If it would, I would have booked it, and they would have found that stuff anyways. And I don't really want to do comedy for people that don't believe in comedy.
Yeah, like
I
a
don't
Shane
really want
Gillis
to do my
situation.
art anyways. Yeah, I don't. It's like, then fine, go do your funny thing. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
And every time they put something out, every time like a big company, like, you know, does that pushback or cancels something, they put the content they put out is not funny. And I'm like, you can see that you can see that you need comedy, and you're not allowing it to happen. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that maybe that's all the more reason for comics to work hard to create our own things, maybe create our own platforms. You know, Skankfest is a great example of that, you know, creating a community and a tour and whatever for people who enjoy that stuff. And it seems to be super well attended. The one here, the South one in Houston, looked completely sold out and everyone had a blast. And so there's a place for that. And sometimes maybe we have to build it ourselves.
Totally. Yeah. I think Skankfest was fun. I don't remember.
Yeah. And not because of the head trauma, because you did box.
I also did have a concussion when I was at Skankfest.
Oh no.
Yeah. I definitely shouldn't have fought or done the drugs that I did. I was like, should I say this? Ah, fuck it. But yeah, you know, living life.
Yeah. What about moments before you go on stage when you're performing? Do you have any last minute mantras or prep or something that you like to do in the moments leading up to going on stage to get your head right?
Not at all.
Just drugs.
I definitely like to be left alone before I go on stage. I don't like being talked to a lot, because I am trying to you know, I did say that I try different sets. So I'm trying to remember the new thing that I'm doing. And I'm such a stoner that I'm like, I need to focus for 15 minutes. I'm like, after I'll talk, I'll drink, I'll hang. But before, I don't drink, I don't smoke. I drink like a bunch of water. I'm the healthiest I ever am. 20 minutes
performing.
So I do all that stuff right before. And then I sort of just, sometimes I listen to my set. A voice memo of my set to remember the stuff I want to work on. Or
I think that's so helpful.
Yeah.
Just like hearing yourself tell the joke again and hearing it with fresh ears. I've been shocked at the things that I've picked up and edited and changed, or, you know, from just listening back. It's such a dumb, simple thing that we as comics probably don't do enough.
Yeah, for sure. It's very helpful. I love it.
It's also a good call out too. If you're a newer comic or any comic at any level, and you're in the green room, like, just leave the headliner alone until after their set, unless they talk to you. You can be in there, say hi, but don't like try to start up a new conversation about some bullshit if they're about to go on stage, say in 15 minutes. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned too for younger comics is like, give the headliner the best chair in the green room. Like, obviously there's like little things that you just learn throughout stand up that you don't know sometimes, or, you know, don't bring friends unless you're very close friends with the headliner, but, you know, don't bring your own friends into the green room. The headliner doesn't want to meet new people in the green room. It's not what it's meant for. I think a lot of the times is something that happens. And I'm just saying, I'm not even talking about me. Like, don't bring anyone in my green room. I'm like, I remember when I was younger being like, this is my friend and this is my friend. And it's like, this is not your green room. This is not a party for you.
Yeah. And I feel like every comic experience is different. There's some comics that are really fun to hang out with, but then in that green room, in that prep space, they become very serious and they turn off all the hospitality and it's business time.
Well, yeah, it's work. It's your money. And you want to make sure you have a good set because you want to go back to that club.
Yeah.
And you want to, you know, do the thing right. The whole thing is fun and partying and hanging out. So at least for right before your set, you need to work on focusing.
And get fans. Do you have any strategies to get fans during your show? We've seen a lot of interesting things lately. How are you doing anything to get people attracted to your podcasts or anything like that?
No.
Do you mention it? At least mention you have it. No.
Just let them find it when they do.
Yeah, I go, if you like podcasts, I should have something. It'll probably be super helpful. I do. And like I said, it's like pushing myself, in the beginning of the podcast, pushing myself is something that I'm constantly working at, and self-promotion, which for me feels very cringy, a lot like the antisocial issue. So sometimes I I'm in that headspace where I have to convince myself every day that I get the things that I deserve. Because, I'm always like, why would anyone give a fuck about a podcast? Because I don't listen to podcasts. I'm like, why am I pushing this weird me talking? It doesn't make sense. I feel like I get like, what's that syndrome?
Imposter syndrome or something.
Like, why would anybody care that I'm doing a podcast? This is insane. But people do, and it's nuts. So I have to remind myself to do that. Maybe I will bring something for when I come do the show.
Those feelings are natural. I mean, it's so hard to self-promote, but it's so necessary today. You have to be your own sort of your biggest cheerleader, your own manager. And it's cool that we can. What did Kyle say last week? It's sort of democratized comedy. Like you can take control of your own career now. And so you got to have some strategy. Like Gianmarco Cerezi, he put QR codes. We had him put them on all of our tables to follow and all that stuff.
That's
a
smart.
great example. Those types of things are helpful.
I mean, it's so powerful to get someone to follow your Instagram now. It's just like, because if they see something, they might share it, and all of a sudden you're reaching so many more people. And this is the crazy world we live in, when those numbers can make or break or create ticket sales. If enough, if you grow that following, it's crazy that little number on our social media platforms can mean so much. We have to invest some work in that.
It's actually very smart to do that at shows too. I need to probably start doing that. I'm learning something from this podcast too, because then the specific people will come out next time. Then you've made a Houston fan base. So even if you have 50 people at a show, if 10 of them follow you, then you have 10 more people for your next show. Then you have 60 people at your show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they'll tell their friends. That's the because we'll do a good job. You're going to crush it. We'll have you back. And then when you come back, we'll remarket. We'll send them the email. They'll see you're coming, and they'll bring new friends. And that's how you grow in any given market, right?
It is kind of funny if I bomb after this podcast, though.
You won't.
But it is funny after all the advice.
We normally
bombing and then clips of my stand-up advice in between it. Just try to work hard if you want to get the things you need. And it's like, oh yeah, you guys aren't funny. Fuck you.
The super cut. That's amazing.
All right, so I was going to play a clip of your stand-up. I got it to load, but we're not going to do it. I'm going to spare you. You didn't want it. We're not going to do it. We're going to pass it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. But we are still going to do last laugh. So it's our last segment. Super simple. Let me go ahead and play a quick clip.
Creepy.
Strange. Yeah. So here's how it works, Kim. We talked about your mortality earlier today. It's weird. We're all going to die. All right. So what is going to be on your tombstone? The joke that people are going to remember you by. What's going to be your last laugh?
Okay. It'll say, "Here lies Kim. She ran the light at the end of the tunnel."
Ooh, that's good.
That's good. We have not heard that before. Run the light.
I thought you would have heard that already.
No.
52 episodes. That's the first time somebody's run the light. That's perfect.
Okay.
Run the light.
We'll make sure it happens for you. What else? Oh, where do people find you? How can they get a hold of you on the internet and such?
Yeah, for sure. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Kimberly Congdon, on Instagram at Kim Congdon. I am playing video games on Twitch, doing giveaways. I'm actually giving away a pair of tickets to Skankfest on twitch.tv.
Oh, nice.
Queen Kong 1, Cong1. I stream whenever I can, not very regularly, but I will be doing fun giveaways. Check out my podcast, Broad Topix, Topix, on the Gas Digital Network, anywhere you find podcasts, and my other podcast, This Bitch, with Sarah Weinshank, also anywhere you find podcasts. And yeah, I'm so excited to come out. Houston, I can't wait to meet everyone. It's gonna be so fun. I fucking love Texas. I'm ready.
Yeah. So if you listen to this podcast quickly, she's coming this weekend. And if you're listening to it late, well, you're gonna have to catch her the second time around, or fly out to LA, or check her website schedule, wherever you can find your show dates. But yeah, we're so pumped to have you at the Riot this weekend. It's gonna be a blast. Dirty jokes, no bombing, crowd roasting. It's all gonna be there.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Kim, and thank you everybody for listening. This has been Breaking Down Bits. See you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Down Bits. You can keep in touch or get more when you follow @Breaking Down Bits on social media, visit the website breakingdownbits.com, or shoot us an email at breakingdownbits@gmail.com.